Hey everyone, I'm here with a quick video on Jay-Z and his accuser. You know, Jay-Z was being sued by Tony Busby and then Jane Doe. Jane Doe said back in 2000, Jay-Z, along with Diddy, violated her. Jay-Z fought back. Eventually, the case was dismissed and it was tossed out of court with prejudice, meaning that Jane Doe and Tony Busby can never come after Jay-Z again with this same case. And after that case was dismissed, Jay-Z and his lawyer, Alex Spiro, sued Tony Busby, Jane Doe's lawyer, and Jane Doe for defamation. And now Jane Doe is fighting back. She's wanting the courts to toss out said lawsuit because she's saying that Jay-Z does not have the right to sue her because he's suing her over stuff that was in her case. And when she did the NBC interview, she's saying that that was also information that was in her case. Therefore, it cannot be defamation. That's why she wants this lawsuit tossed out. And she also wants it tossed with prejudice, meaning that Jay-Z and his lawyers can never come after her again. So let me go ahead and share screen. So Jay-Z, our accuser, wants a lawsuit against her tossed. The woman who accused Jay-Z and Diddy of R-ing her when she was 13 years old is now taking legal steps to try to dismiss the lawsuit Jay-Z filed against her. Jay-Z accuser, who first sued him for R as Jane Doe, filed new legal docs Tuesday to dismiss the defamation suit the music mogul filed against her and her attorney, Tony Busby, in Alabama. The new legal docs obtained by TMZ, the woman claims Jay-Z can't sue her over the claims because she made them in court documents and are therefore privileged, adding that the interview she did with NBC was based on her claims in court documents. As reported, and let me back up, let me say this. If I sue someone for XYZ, because I'm believing that what I'm saying is 100% true. I'm suing them saying they did XYZ to me. The person cannot turn around and then sue me for defamation of character for what I put in said lawsuit, right? But if I was on, the social media streets, just really trying to defame their character along with my lawsuit, that would be a different story. And so what this woman is also saying is, although she went on NBC to talk about it, she talked about what was in the lawsuit, so it should all be protected. And that's why she's saying this case should be tossed out of court. As we reported, the woman claimed Jay and Diddy R-ed her in New York back in 2000. She ultimately dropped the R lawsuit, and Jay-Z then sued her and Busby in Alabama, where she lives, over bringing the case in the first place. The woman, and his thought process is, Jay-Z, that she lied in the first place. So that's the premises of his lawsuit with the defamation. You lied, you brought a bogus lawsuit, which damaged my reputation, according to Jay-Z. The woman now wants Jay-Z lawsuit dismissed with prejudice, meaning it can't be filed again. Busby previously filed a motion to get Jay's lawsuit against him dismissed, claiming they struck a deal and Jay reneged. An allegation Jay-Z, and they say Hoves can't, previously told us was bogus. In her motion, the woman makes a similar claim about dismissing her lawsuit, per the alleged statement. We reached out to reps for Jay-Z, and so far, no word back yet. Now, let's backtrack and just listen where Tony Busby is 10 toes down that he made a deal to drop the case with Jay-Z's lawyers, and allegedly that part of that deal was Jay-Z was not going to come after him or Jane Doe. Let's take a listen.
Tony Busby, who has filed a gazillion lawsuits against Diddy, not related to the criminal case, but filed all sorts of lawsuits. There have been a lot of issues surrounding him with, in particular, one woman who made a claim both against Jay-Z and Diddy.
Exactly.
Who then dropped the claim, and Jay-Z is now suing that woman and Tony Busby for defamation. Well, Tony Busby says, you have no right to sue me. He has gone to court saying, Judge, dismiss this lawsuit against me because we had a deal, comma, bro, exclamation point.
Just to be clear, the bro is not a quote from the lawsuit, but it is the tone of what Tony Busby is saying in these documents. He's saying that, when they agreed to drop, well, I shouldn't even use the word agreement. Well, that is the issue here, is that Tony Busby is saying he and Jay-Z and Jay-Z's lawyer, Alex Spiro, had an agreement. And that agreement was that Tony Busby and the Jane Doe accuser were going to go into court and dismiss that lawsuit. And in exchange, that's the way he makes it seem in these documents, in exchange, Jay-Z would have his investigators back off the Jane Doe accuser. In these documents, they say that days after the lawsuit was dropped, investigators showed up at this woman's house.
Okay, so stop for a second. So explain this to me. I just heard what you said.
Mhm.
Where in this agreement did it say that Jay-Z is not going to sue Tony Busby for defamation?
Yeah, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. And by the way, they're saying there was an agreement. To be fair, Jay-Z's side is saying there was
no
never
agreement.
an agreement.
But let's assume for a second there actually was. Let's say there was, even though Jay-Z's team is saying BS. Let's say there was. Where does Tony Busby have a right to dismiss the defamation lawsuit because private investigators continued on the hunt for what they say is the truth involving the woman?
Right.
He may have a countersuit, but if there were an agreement.
Grounds for dismissal.
It's not a grounds for dismissal.
Now, we should say there are a couple of other things he put in there for the grounds of dismissal, which he says they sued in the wrong court.
Okay, well, that's a whole other thing. If they sued in the wrong court, they just refiled in the right court.
Well, and this is not a straight up breach of contract kind of, you have to dismiss because that's what our contract said, but he is pointing out that there was this agreement. Now,
what
Jay-Z's
agreement?
Lawyer,
what agreement?
I will explain. Jay-Z's lawyer describes this very differently. He says, look, I got a call from Tony Busby's lawyer who said he wanted to negotiate a dismissal. And I told him in no uncertain terms that Jay-Z would not negotiate any sort of settlement about this. However, that lawyer said, okay, we'll voluntarily dismiss the suit. And, you know, then your sanctions motion against us for all this bad behavior should kind of go away as well. He thinks that's what the agreement was, that you would walk away from trying to get sanctions against us. Whereas Jay-Z's lawyer says, look, our
wait a minute.
motion.
Derek, is that in his head? Is that in his head? Or, you know, my understanding is usually if you really had an agreement, you put it in writing and you sign it.
And when they filed the dismissal,
here's the paperwork, Your Honor. Here's the paperwork.
It is certainly not a negotiated settlement like that. There is no contractual deal that we can look at this paperwork. There's a series of phone calls and maybe emails, it sounds like.
What fakakta situation is it where a lawyer says, you're not going to sue me, but we're not going to really put it in writing? Huh?
This is not the way lawyers do deals. You're right about that. To rely on a couple of phone calls and handshakes, that's not the way lawyers do things. We write it down so that we can look to it and say you breached it down the road. So you're right. This is very loose and informal. If you really wanted to rely on that, probably should have gotten it in writing.
Well, and he's not even saying you agreed not to sue us. He never. I mean, if he's going to make the argument that there's an agreement, the agreement has to be you agreed not to sue us for filing the lawsuit in the first place.
You're right. Although the spirit of the deal, according to that guy, was you drop it and you leave us alone.
Spirit. That law doesn't work that way with spirit. You know that, Derek.
Also, can I just ask you guys, as attorneys, I'll ask you, is it weird for an attorney like Tony Busby to try to broker something with Jay-Z where Tony Busby's client is going to drop her lawsuit and Tony Busby is going to get some benefit from it?
Not weird. I mean, this happens all the time.
But
where there's
why would Tony Busby get some? Why should he benefit from
malicious? Because the argument is malicious prosecution, and that's what Jay-Z said from the jump in this case.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, lawyers do this a lot, where lawyers will say, look, let's have a mutual dismissal and we agree not to go after the other party in the future. They've done, I mean, that's not uncommon. It's just, that's not this case.
My point is that it's almost like Tony Busby, according to Jay-Z's side, was using his client in order to get some benefit for himself, which is don't go after me in court and my client will drop her suit.
Well, no. It could be, look, I mean, here's the way it could have worked. That Tony Busby could have said to Jay-Z's lawyer, look, we're going to have we will dismiss with prejudice. but you agree not to file a malicious prosecution lawsuit because that could be against the lawyer and the client. So agreed not to file against either of us, and we'll go about our merry way.
But that didn't happen.
That didn't happen.
And Jay-Z's side said there was no deal whatsoever. Just to be
Right.
clear, Jay-Z says he did not settle this at all. He did not pay 1 cent to that Jane Doe accuser.
Never
or
made an
Tony
agreement
Busby,
with
and
him.
never made an agreement.
And even if there was this agreement, it doesn't make sense. It's not going to get dismissed.
Hi, my name is Kyra, and I'm from Columbus. I think that Tony Busby is probably doing what my mother used to say, writing a check you can't cash. This is a game you don't want to play with somebody who has endless amounts of resources. And when you're coming with these type of very damaging claims, you have to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And he should know that as a lawyer. So good luck, Tony, but it sounds like you might be getting sued, brother.
Yeah.
See ya.
Well, he's getting sued.
He's already getting sued. He's not getting out of it.
He's not getting out of it for this.
He's not getting out of it. So, and that brings up an important point where, you know, Tony Busby now has a lawsuit against Shannon Sharp with a Jane Doe, even though Jane Doe's name was exposed, right? And in my mind, you know, Tony has a really high level vested interest in getting the biggest dollar amount he can from Shannon Sharp, because that will help offset probably what he has to pay out in the Jay-Z lawsuit. Tony Busby is definitely a lawyer that seems like he's more out for self than a client. But on the flip side with Shannon Sharp, someone can't sue you unless you give them some ammunition to be able to sue you. So Shannon Sharp seems like he has a track record himself, and the track record doesn't seem to be that good. So we're going to see how both of these cases pan out. Well, at the end of the day, Tony Busby and the Jane Doe lawsuit prevail or still happen in court? And if it does, will Jay-Z be the winner at the end? And will Tony Busby owe Jay-Z a lot of money, including Jane Doe, which unfortunately we all know Jane Doe doesn't have probably a dime to pay Jay-Z, but I think he's doing more for the principal. And then we're going to see perhaps how maybe Shannon Sharp money will be going indirectly to Jay-Z, because it seems like Shannon Sharp may end up paying some money to get out of this situation he is in with his Jane Doe. Listen, guys, thanks for watching. Hit the like button. Chat with me in the comments, and when I get opportunity, I will chat back. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you will be notified. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. Everybody, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you on the next video.